You gave a heart-wrenching testimonial here, but can you tell us when did the issues start? You've been at Sars for 7 years. When did these issues start?
Well, I think the issue started in 2016 when we started what was said to be a process of placing us, all those who have been affected by the review of the operating model. We had engagements with the chief officers where we were reporting to at the time, and had to find a way of saying what kind of a position do we actually can be placed in. I must say that from the beginning there was no clarity and no understanding as to what role I would then be placed in. It changed from being integration and monitoring to monitoring and compliance, and clearly there was no clarity. It wasn't even clear as to what role would a person be playing, how would I be contributing to the strategy of SARS, to the objectives and the vision of the organization itself. And it's a process that you were not even supposed to be questioning. If you question, you're obviously seen as being, I think one of the letters said to me I was being unreasonable by not accepting something that I didn't understand, that even the people presenting to me couldn't even explain to me as well. So it started all in 2016, much more in that sense, until 2017 when I was then dismissed with immediate effect.
You were a former executive, a quite senior person there, and as you just stated inside that you were demoted up until you were suspended and given a month's salary to live off. But what type of people were promoted into more senior positions?
Look, I think if we are to look at even people who participated in the operating model steering committee, most of them actually were promoted to much higher positions. But we also actually began to see a parallel organization being established, because we then had the structure that was approved by Minister Nene at that time. And you had a whole group of us who have now been declared redundant and now being marginalized and left on the side, but still being paid. So you actually have two organizations, one that is on paper and the other one that you cannot actually see on paper.
Well, there were structural renewal, as you put it inside there. What was actually happening? Was there a reason within SARS for changes?
Look, I think at the beginning of it, there was apparently a statement that was in the 2014-2015 annual plan of SARS that alluded to the fact that they would want to review the operating model. But our understanding was that that would only be done once there is evidence, there is clear data information that would drive that to say specifically what is it that needs to be improved, that needs to be enhanced. For me, I think it was much more an issue of enhancing as opposed to complete destruction of the structure itself.
Now, you mentioned heart-wrenching testimonial inside of your current financial situations and not being able to afford your daughter who's in university and education at this very moment. Given the opportunity to go back to SARS, would you go back to SARS?
That's a difficult question. Look, I'm passionate with integrity. I am passionate contributing to the country. I think we have responsibility to ensure that we have institutions, because I have kids and I think I'd want to make sure that things are in place for my kids to be able to grow up and also become citizens and leaders in the coming years. But I think it's a very complex issue for me to come back when I know that there are still some of the people who were very instrumental to my removal, my humiliation, because the way in which I was dismissed, it was as if actually I had committed probably even theft or fraud or corruption or, something of the sort, when actually I had not done anything. I'm still battling to understand that, is this the organization that I really worked for? In fact, it begins to touch me much more deeply, because as I was doing my work in Sars, there were instances where people would say the organization is very cruel. I couldn't understand until I got exposed to that. And then I began to understand that as an individual, it's quite difficult to fight wrongdoing, to fight corruption, because you then stand against an institution and you stand against people who are not necessarily even utilizing their own money to fight you, but using the organizational money. And therefore, it's very difficult for you as an individual.